First story. I banned my stepson from eating my food after he said he hadn't eaten for days and told him to blame his dad for providing for him. Then kicked him out, and he got a job, so I demanded he come back and share my bills. But he refused, and I regret every damn thing I did to this kid. I 33F live with my husband 37M. Our two kids 8M and 5F. And up until recently, my 16-year-old stepson, Jay. I've been married to my husband for almost 10 years, and Jay was never fully part of our household until 2 years ago, when his mom got arrested for drug possession and child endangerment. Before that, he only came over every other weekend, and made it very clear that he didn't want to be at our house. He openly favored his mother, and used to complain to her about everything from how I cooked to how we made him help with chores. I tried. I really did. I treated him like my own, even when he gave me the cold shoulder. I'd get him birthday presents, include him in family outings, and even take off work for his school events when his mom bailed. Never got a thank you, ever. He told my husband once that I was just the lady who lives here. When his mom was arrested, we got full custody by default. That's when everything changed. He went from being a weekend kid who mostly kept to himself to a full-time presence in our home. And it wasn't easy. He had a chip on his shoulder from the beginning, like we were punishing him just by existing. Therapy was suggested by the court, but after 3 sessions, he refused to go back. My husband, trying to avoid conflict, didn't push him. To be blunt, Jay never fully integrated. He isolated himself in his room, only came down for food, and acted like everything we did was a burden to him. He kept saying he wanted to go back to his mom, even though she was under supervised visitation. I get that it's hard. His mom messed up his life, and he lost the parent he was closer to. But instead of adjusting, he just resented everyone around him. We were managing okay financially until 4 months ago when my husband lost his job. He was the sole earner while I worked part-time and handled the house and kids. At first, I was supportive. Losing a job is hard. But 2 months passed, and he barely applied anywhere. He kept saying, "I'm not going to flip burgers," and claimed he was using the time to handle the house and the kids. Except he didn't. Dishes piled up, laundry overflowed, and I still had to manage my part-time shifts while doing 90% of the housework. I asked him to get serious. We were behind on bills. I told him flat out that if he runs out of savings and still refuses to work, I'm not going to use my tiny paycheck to support him or Jay. That caused a massive fight. He accused me of not caring about his son. I told him I do care, but our kids come first, and if he refuses to provide for his child, that's not my responsibility to fix. Flash forward to a few weeks ago, his savings finally dried up. He started relying on his mom to bring groceries over, mostly just for him and Jay. Meanwhile, I was using what little money I earned to keep the lights on and feed our kids. It's not like I was living large either. I was skipping meals some days just so the kids could have theirs. Thankfully, they get free meals at school, but weekends and nights are rough. Now here's where it all came to a head. One afternoon, I had just come back from work. I was lightheaded and hadn't eaten since the previous day. I finally made myself something small, literally just a sandwich and a cup of tea. I sat down at the table and was halfway through eating when Jay came downstairs. He looked at my plate and asked, "Can I have some of that?" I told him no, not because I was being cruel, but because I needed it. I felt like I was going to faint. I explained that the food I'd bought was already divided up for the kids' meals, and that this was all I had left for myself until payday. But Jay wouldn't let it go. He started whining, then full-on begging. He said he hadn't eaten in days. He said it was unfair, and that I was starving him on purpose. I was exhausted. I was pissed. And honestly, I snapped. I told him, "You want food? Ask your dad. He's the one sitting on his arse doing nothing while I break my back to keep this place running. I'm not responsible for you. I have 2 kids I have to keep fed. If you're hungry, that's your dad's fault, not mine." He looked stunned. I don't know if it was because I finally said out loud what I've been holding in for months, or because I wasn't sugarcoating anything anymore. He didn't say anything right away, just turned around and walked off. Later that evening, my husband confronted me. He said Jay told him everything and asked how I could be so heartless. I reminded him that we agreed when his savings ran out, I wouldn't be supporting him or his son anymore unless he helped out financially. He shrugged and said he was trying, but nobody's hiring. When I asked how many places he applied to that week, he couldn't answer. The next day, Jay's mom came by. She was scheduled for a supervised visit, but instead, she brought fast food, told Jay to pack some clothes, and said she was just taking him out for a while. Before she left, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "You'll look good in court, starving a child who isn't yours. That's real classy." Then she looked at my husband and said, "You're a effing failure of a father. No wonder he wants nothing to do with you." My husband didn't say a word to her, just stood there. I asked him to back me up, but he said nothing. After they left, I sat down on the stairs and just felt numb. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I just felt done. Then later that night, my husband turned to me and said, "You F'd everything up. Couldn't you have just given him a bite of food? We're going to lose everything now. I've lost my son because you wanted to make a point. And now he's gone too. He went to stay at his mom's house to cool off. But he hasn't been back in 2 days. He left me here with our kids, an empty fridge, and a warning that we might lose custody if Jay's mom follows through with her threats. I know it sounds cold, but I don't feel guilty. Not one bit. I've given everything I have emotionally, physically, financially, and I got spat on by everyone in return. I didn't sign up to be a martyr. My kids come first. Always. When he left to go stay at his mom's, I didn't chase him. I didn't call. I didn't text. I put the kids to bed, cleaned the kitchen, and sat at the table staring at the empty food shelf I keep for weekends. I realized I wasn't scared of being alone. I was scared of being stuck in a house where I was the only one trying to hold everything together, while being treated like the villain every time I said something nobody wanted to hear. The next morning, I had to call in sick to work because I was so dizzy I nearly collapsed getting out of bed. I spent most of that day lying on the couch while the kids watched cartoons. They asked where their dad was. I told them he was staying at grandma's. They didn't ask for more. Around the afternoon, my husband finally texted. Not, "Are you okay?" or "How are the kids?" but, "Jay's mom is talking to a lawyer." I just asked him, "Okay?" And he started messaging paragraphs about how I made things worse, and how if I had just been compassionate, none of this would be happening. I didn't respond. I didn't have the energy to argue with a grown man who refuses to feed his own child, but expects me to play savior with a part-time paycheck. Later that day, my mill came over. Not to help. Not to check if our kids had eaten. She came to lecture. She said things like, "A real mother doesn't pick and choose which children she feeds," and "Your place as a wife is to support your husband during setbacks." I told her, straight out, if my husband is refusing to work because he thinks flipping burgers is beneath him, then he can starve. And I'm not responsible for feeding a teenager who has spent 2 years treating me like I'm trash, while his father refuses to do a damn thing. She didn't like that. She accused me of being cold and said she finally understood why Jay never liked me. I showed her the empty fridge and said, "If you want Jay to eat, maybe ask your son why the only parent working in this house was skipping meals so your grandchildren don't go hungry." She didn't say anything after that. Just left. I think reality hit her hard. Later that night, Jay's mom texted my husband, "Not me, never me," even though I somehow get blamed for everything she does, saying she wasn't letting Jay come back at all, supervised visitation or not, and that she was prepared to fight this in court and expose us for neglect. My husband called me then. He said, "We're screwed. I can't believe you'd let this happen. You know they'll use what you said against us." I said, "They can use it. I stand by it." Silence for a few seconds. He said, "You don't care about this family." I said, "No, I don't care about you refusing to be a parent. I don't care about your son treating me like dirt. I don't care about you waiting around for someone else to fix your life. I care about our kids being fed. That's it." He hung up. He hasn't been back since. I've had a few days to think. Not emotionally, but practically. I ran the numbers. My income could just barely cover rent, utilities, and groceries if I apply for full-time at my job, which they've already offered multiple times. It would be tight. Very tight. But survivable. Meanwhile, I don't see my husband making any changes. He is comfortable being helpless when other people are picking up the pieces. He's been coddled by his mum and his ex, and now he expected the same from me. Jay learned the same dynamic. Blame OP when life isn't pleasant. I'm exhausted. I'm hungry. I'm working. I'm still showing up for my kids. And I'm done being made to feel like I did something wrong, when the only person in this situation actually doing anything is me. What hurts the most isn't Jay telling his mom. It's my husband telling me I should have just given him a bite of food. As if that magically fixes months of resentment. A teenager who refuses to listen to anyone. A husband who refuses to work. And the fact that I was literally starving myself. A bite of food isn't the problem. The problem is that everyone decided I should be the one to sacrifice myself first, and without complaint. And when I finally said no, everyone acted shocked. Since he left, the house has been quiet. The kids are calmer. They aren't walking on eggshells. I'm not hearing arguments upstairs or a grown man sighing dramatically because the dishwasher needs unloading. I've eaten full meals again because I'm not dividing food among 4 people. I go to bed tired, not drained. There's a difference. And it's making me realize something I hadn't wanted to think. I don't think I want him back. Not unless he gets a job. Not unless he takes care of his own child. Not unless he stops expecting me to hold everything together by myself. I know Jay's mom may try something, but I also know how custody works. She is not walking into court with her history and instantly getting full custody again. All this has done is make it clearer that Jay does not want to be here, and I'm not going to force a teenager to live somewhere he hates. If he stays with her, that's between them and family court. I'm done being the buffer. My husband has texted me once today. Just admit you went too far, and we can fix this. I didn't respond, because I didn't go too far. I meant everything I said. And if he wants to keep pretending that I'm the problem, then he can stay exactly where he is at his mother's house, eating her food, being her problem. I said what I said. I haven't apologized, and I don't plan to. I'm tired of being the only adult in this house. Ada? Comments. Comment 1. I don't think people understand how absolutely soul-crushing it is to be the only functioning adult in a house full of people acting like everything is your fault. Your response to Jay was blunt. Yeah, but it wasn't cruel, it was tired. Tired people don't sugarcoat. That said, I think Jay is a victim here too. Not because of you, but because no one gave him stable footing after his mom got locked up. He had no emotional support system, no structure, and a dad who checked out the minute life got hard. His anger was misplaced, but he was still a hungry, neglected kid. You're not wrong for drawing the line, but he was failed from all sides. The biggest arsehole here, your husband. He checked out emotionally, financially, and physically, and then had the nerve to blame you. His son begged you for food because he wasn't feeding him. You were cornered into being the bad guy because he's a coward. I hope you do what's best for you and your kids. And I hope Jay gets help too. He's 16 and angry, but he didn't make this mess. He's just living in it. Comment 2. NTA. I'm a stepmom too, and let me tell you, this is exactly what happens when a bio parent dumps their responsibility onto the step-parent, and then plays victim when the step-parent sets boundaries. You were running on fumes, literally skipping meals, and your husband thought a bite of food was the issue. Nah. This isn't about one sandwich. It's about him checking out as a father and partner the second he lost his paycheck. You didn't tell that boy, go starve. You said, I can't carry this alone. And instead of stepping up, his dad decided to let you take the heat and then ran off to mommy when things got hard. Jay has been disrespectful from day one and still sees you as the enemy. His dad never corrected that, never bridged that gap, and now he wants to blame you for the inevitable fallout. Let him stay with his mommy. You're already doing the work of 2 parents for your own kids. You don't owe anyone an apology for putting your children and yourself first. Comment 3. Okay? But why the F is no one talking about how passive your husband is? Man really just stood there while his ex cussed out his wife, called her a failure, and threatened court. Didn't defend you, didn't take accountability, just stood there. And now he's at his mommy's house sulking and trying to gaslight you into thinking you ruined everything. No. What ruined everything is his pride. He lost his job, refused to take literally any job because it wasn't good enough, and then expected you to fund his lazy lifestyle. He doesn't want to flip burgers. Cool, then go hungry. That's how adulthood works. You know who doesn't get to go hungry? The kids you chose to bring into this world. And you took care of yours. You didn't abandon them. You didn't make excuses. You cut through the bullshit and made it clear. If you won't feed your kid, I can't either. Honestly, I hope you take this as your green light to leave. Because this guy isn't your partner. He's a dependent with a fragile ego. And you don't need to parent 3 kids when only 2 came from your body. Good luck, OP, NTA. And don't let guilt rewrite the truth. Update. So yeah, things got worse. I know I sounded firm in my original post, and at the time I meant every word. My husband left. Jay went to live with his mom, and the house was quiet. It felt like peace. I thought I was doing the right thing by standing my ground. But I need to be honest now, I've made some choices since then that even I can admit weren't coming from a good place. Let's start with the fallout. My husband stayed gone. Didn't ask to come see the kids, didn't offer money, didn't send $1 for groceries. I was still juggling my part-time job and barely feeding 2 kids. Then my boss offered me full-time, and I took it. Not out of excitement, I didn't even want to. But I needed to survive. The job is long hours and crap pay, but it's stable. Barely. What I didn't realize at first was how hard full-time would hit the kids. My son started getting clingy. My daughter threw tantrums at bedtime. I brushed it off. I told myself, they're fine. They have food and a roof. But the truth is, I was going through the motions. I fed them, I bathed them, and I kept their routines. But emotionally, I tapped out. I didn't care that much anymore. Not about the messes or the toys all over the house, or the 20th time my son said, "Mom," in 5 minutes. I'd come home from work, microwave dinner, and scroll on my phone until bedtime. I didn't yell, I didn't hit. But I also wasn't present. I didn't have the energy. Meanwhile, I found out from mutuals that Jay got a part-time job at a grocery store. That hit a nerve. He was working now, earning his own money. After I fed him, housed him, and let him use my internet, hot water, and electricity, all while his dad did nothing, I carried that kid. And now that he's earning money, he gets to live comfortably at his mom's. Eating out, new clothes, video games, 0 bills. So I texted him. I said, now that you're working, you should think about paying back some of the help you got here. You lived in this house rent-free for 2 years. You ate my food. You used my stuff. The least you can do is contribute something. He read it and never responded. That's when I snapped. I started talking. To everyone. My mill, my cousin, people at work. I told them how Jay used us. I said he was entitled and lazy, how he sat around on his phone all day and treated me like a servant. I said he was raised by a drug addict, and the apple didn't fall far. Word got back to him. And I don't regret what I said. He needed to hear it. Everyone's been coddling him like he's some poor wounded bird. He's 16, almost a man. He at least could have picked up a phone and said thank you. A couple weeks after he left, I started seeing someone new. Nothing serious. Honestly, I don't even like him that much. He's kind of boring. But he picks me up from work, takes me out for cheap dinners, and says I look beautiful even when I'm exhausted. He posts me on his stories. My husband sees it. Good. Call it revenge. Call it coping. I don't care. At least someone acts like I matter now. The one thing I didn't expect. The damn food stamp issue. I went to apply for benefits because my hours were cut again. And I was told that I don't qualify for as much since I'm technically a smaller household, now just me and 2 kids. They asked why my husband and stepson aren't listed. I couldn't explain without making it obvious that I basically kicked them out. And now I'm getting less help than I did when I was feeding 4 people. So yeah, I'll admit it. I called Jay again. Said maybe it was time to come home. I framed it like, I know things were hard, but we're family. We should try again. He shut it down instantly. He said he's staying with his mom and wants nothing to do with me. I told him flat out, don't forget who kept your lights on. When your mom was in jail and your dad was broke, I fed you. You owe me. He hung up. Now even my own kids are asking where their dad is. And I can't give them a real answer. I just say, Daddy had to go away for a while. But I've noticed I slip things in. Little comments. Like, Mommy's working because Daddy doesn't help us. Or, that's why we can't buy toys, because Daddy didn't want to get a job. I don't mean to do it, or maybe I do. I don't know. But I want them to know I'm the one showing up. I want them to see who stayed. I know that's wrong. I'm aware. But it's hard when you're angry all the time, and the person you sacrificed for makes you the villain. That's why I'm writing this update. Not because I think I'm some martyr. Not because I think I'm perfect. But because I've reached the point where I'm self-aware enough to say, I've been petty. I've crossed lines. I've said things I shouldn't have. But I'm still here. Still working. Still raising 2 kids by myself. Still trying to keep it together. I'm not proud of every decision I made. I know I've become a bitter person. And yeah, part of me does want my husband to get his act together and come back. I want him to step up and be a real dad, not just a name on a birth certificate. I want Jay to at least acknowledge that I gave a damn when no one else did. But I also know I've made things worse. So Reddit, go ahead. Say what you want. Comments. Comment 1. YTA. And you're starting to sound like you're addicted to victimhood. You didn't just lose the moral high ground, you grabbed a shovel and dug yourself into the dirt. Let's be real. Jay got a part-time job at 16, and your first thought wasn't, maybe he's trying to get stable. It was, he owes me money. What? You housed a minor under court-ordered custody during a crisis, and now you want retroactive rent like you're his slumlord. Get out of here. Then you got salty he didn't say thank you, so you tried to guilt-trip him and burn his reputation with family. And now that your benefits got cut, suddenly you want him back in the house. Come on. At least own the fact that you want his body counted on your application, so you get a couple hundred more in EBT. You're not asking him back out of love, it's convenience. And those comments to your kids about their dad. That's emotional warfare. They're kids, not your backup choir. Weaponizing your own children's understanding of the situation, so you can look like the better parent, is disgusting. You didn't just become the arsehole, you embraced it. And you're still acting like the only adult in the room. Wake up. Comment 2. This whole update reads like a trauma response, sliding into a personality collapse. I'm not here to excuse your behavior, you are the now, no question. But what I see is someone who was overburdened, undersupported, and chronically dismissed for so long, that when people finally stopped leaning on you, you didn't know how to put the weight down, you weaponized it instead. You're right about one thing. Jay was a teenager thrown into chaos. His mom was arrested, his dad shut down, and you were the only structure in the house. But structure without warmth is still a prison. You did the physical labor, but it seems like emotionally, you checked out on him long before he got a job. Now you're stuck in this pattern of transactional love. I did X, so where's my Y? You're dating someone you don't even like just to score points. You're parenting for recognition. You want Jay back only when it makes your life easier. You need therapy, not Reddit. You're not the arsehole from the start, but you're definitely turning into one. Comment 3. This is the kind of update where I don't know whether to rage or cry. I was with you in the first post. Genuinely. Your husband bailed, your stepson was ungrateful, and you were the only one trying. But now, you're losing the plot. You're bitter and angry, and you've become what you hated, someone who throws tantrums when they don't get what they want. Let's look at Jay. He's 16, not 25. His mom went to jail, his dad shut down, and you, the adult in the house, made it clear your care had a price tag. He probably sees working now as freedom, and instead of supporting that, you tried to leverage it for payback. That's not a parent. That's a loan shark. And your kids? You think they're not absorbing those comments? Daddy doesn't buy you toys. You're planting resentment in them like it's a crop. It'll grow, trust me. You're not irredeemable. But you are YT now. And if you don't change course, you're going to raise kids who either grow up too fast or resent you later. Probably both. Update. I didn't expect to write again, but people kept messaging, asking what happened. So here it is. My life kept unraveling after that last post. But it didn't happen all at once. It was slow. Days bleeding together, bills stacking, my phone buzzing with numbers I didn't recognize, probably debt collectors. I was still working full-time at that point, but my attitude was off. I snapped at coworkers, came in late, looked dead behind the eyes. I knew people talked. Then I got fired. Not for one big thing, just not meeting performance expectations. I knew it was coming. I had nothing left in me to pretend I cared. I walked out that day without even clearing my locker. Just left. The guy I was dating. Gone too. He was already annoyed. I wasn't fun or flirty anymore. He made one sarcastic comment about how I was emotionally exhausting, and I told him to leave. He did. The house got quiet again. But not in the peaceful way. It was cold. Stale. I had 2 kids who barely spoke to me unless they needed something. My son started wetting the bed again. My daughter stopped drawing she used to draw every day. They'd started asking more questions about their dad too. Why doesn't he call us? Is he coming back? I told them he was busy trying to find a job. They didn't buy it. I think they knew even then that something broke in our family and wasn't getting fixed. And yeah, I made it worse. After getting fired, I panicked and reached out to people I hadn't spoken to in months. I messaged my mill and tried to explain my side again, hoping maybe she'd help with the kids while I figured out what to do. She left me on read. I called my cousin and started crying about how no one understands what I gave up for this family. She listened for 5 minutes, then said, "Honestly, you've sounded bitter for a long time now. I think you're more mad about not being thanked than about being left behind." That one hurt. Because she was right. I didn't love Jay. I tolerated him. I fed him and housed him. But the truth is, I always saw him as an outsider. I never told him that directly. But kids pick up on energy. I resented how much space he took. I resented that his father didn't step up. I resented that no matter how hard I tried, I was always the second choice parent, even for a kid who barely knew what stability looked like. And when he finally got out of this house, got a job, and found his footing instead of feeling proud, I got petty. I tried to spin the narrative. Told extended family he was ungrateful and manipulative, and that he used us. I hoped it would make people side with me. But Jay had already told his version, and most people believed him. One aunt told me, "You sound more angry that he didn't crumble without you than you are happy he's okay now." She wasn't wrong either. After the job and the boyfriend were gone, and my name was mud among most of the family, I finally reached out to my husband. I asked to meet, no drama, just to talk. He agreed. We met at a park. He looked tired, but more alert than I remembered. He told me he'd finally gotten part-time work through a temp agency. Said his mom was helping him stay stable while he got back on his feet. He said Jay was still working, still staying with his mom, and still refusing to come back to our house. I asked about the kids. He said he missed them. I told him he could see them, but not at the house. I didn't say it out of anger, I just didn't want to watch them light up for a man who still hadn't fixed the damage. I wasn't ready. He didn't push, just said, "I'm filing the divorce paperwork next month. It's time." I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't ask him to stay. We sat in silence after that. I wanted to say more, but I didn't know what. We both left with unfinished sentences in our mouths. With nowhere else to go and rent looming, I called my parents. We haven't been close in years, mostly my fault. I kept them at arm's length because I thought I didn't need anyone. But desperation kills pride. I asked if the kids and I could stay for a while. They said yes with conditions. No attitude. No drama. No boyfriend. No complaining about my ex. Just be a mum and get back on my feet. So now I'm in the guest room of my parents' house. 2 twin beds. A portable heater. Kids sharing a dresser. It's not glamorous, but it's safe and warm. My mum cooks dinner every night. My dad drives my son to school. I'm job hunting. I don't know what kind of job yet. I'm tired of saying, "I used to work in," I just want to work. Pay my bills. Keep the fridge full. The divorce is underway. My husband sees the kids on weekends now. He picks them up and brings them to his mom's. They come back quieter, calmer. They never say much about what happens, but my son mentioned once, "Daddy has a new car." My daughter asked why grandma buys them better snacks. I didn't say anything. That's my life now. I'm not the villain of this story. But I'm not the hero either. I was tired. I got mean. I made bad choices. And now I live with them. That's it. Comments. Comment 1. This whole saga proves one thing. Resentment will rot you from the inside if you don't deal with it. I don't think you ever hated your stepson or your husband. I think you hated being the only one trying while everyone else coasted. And instead of demanding help early on or walking away, you waited until the resentment piled so high you couldn't see over it anymore. The tragedy is, you confused control with strength. You thought controlling the food, the household, the narrative, and even your own kids' emotions was what strength looked like. But it wasn't. It was just a mask for burnout. Now everyone's gone. You're not a monster. But you burned down a life that could have been saved if you just admitted sooner that you were drowning. I hope this is your reset button. But you're going to need therapy and a whole lot of humility to climb out of this hole. Comment 2. I don't feel bad for you, but I do feel something pity, maybe frustration. Because, girl, you were right there. You had every justification at the start. Lazy husband, court dumped stepson, financial collapse, people were ready to back you 100%. But somewhere along the way, you decided being right was more important than being kind. You wanted credit, gratitude, a parade for doing what needed to be done. You didn't get that, so you lashed out. At a kid. At your husband. At anyone who didn't pat your back fast enough. And the second your stepson started succeeding without you, you couldn't handle it. That says way more about you than it does about him. So now you're broke, alone, back at your parents' house with no job. And finally realizing the world doesn't owe you applause for not falling apart. You didn't fail because you were overworked. You failed because you let bitterness make your decisions. Comment 3. This was hard to read because it's like watching someone slowly realize they were the villain and still trying to justify the plot. Let me break this down real quick. Your husband sucked. No debate there. He left you hanging when it mattered most. Your stepson didn't ask to be dumped on you. He was a traumatized kid. You didn't need to love him, but you sure as hell didn't have to guilt trip him like a debt collector when he finally got his life together. Your own kids are showing signs of emotional damage. That's not on your ex, that's on you. Kids absorb everything. They hear the sarcasm, the passive digs. They feel the tension. Now you're at your parents', out of work, and playing this like some gritty survival story when what it really is the slow unraveling of someone who refused to ask for help until it was too late. You're not evil. You're just someone who didn't deal with their pain, and now everyone around you has paid for it, including the kids. Fix yourself before they grow up and write their own Reddit posts. Second story. My best friend still cheated on my brother, so I cut ties with her, but they reconciled, and she demanded I forgive her. Then she gave my brother an ultimatum to cut me out of his life if I couldn't forgive her. The title says it all. My Sil emotionally cheated on my brother. They went through a rough patch, but eventually got back together. Since I found out my brother lived with me during their break, I've completely distanced myself from her. I was, and still am, disappointed. Even after she and my brother made up, she tried reaching out a few times, but I ignored her every time. For my brother's sake, she'll be at my daughter's birthday, but outside of that, I'm choosing not to have any contact with her. This has been hard for me because we used to be very close. I never had a sister growing up, and she was the closest thing I had. What hurt the most is realizing she doesn't take accountability for her actions. Instead, she blames others, acts selfishly, and even cries to me, expecting that I'd defend her terrible choice to cheat. Ada? Comments. Comment 1. It sounds like you're grieving the relationship you thought you had with her, which makes this harder. But if she's not owning what she did, keeping your distance is reasonable. Comment 2. OP is not just grieving the relationship she thought she had. She's grieving the loss of the person she thought her sister-in-law was. When someone is unfaithful, it changes the way you view them. Add in the fact that she doesn't take accountability and blames others for her actions and plays the victim. OP is realizing that her personality is not the type of person she wants to have a relationship with. It doesn't matter if her brother forgives her. Her view on the sister-in-law's morals and values has changed. If you don't see eye to eye with someone's morals and values, it is nearly impossible to have a friendship, let alone a close relationship with them. OP, you have no idea how much I've cried. I held it together at work, only to break down in tears on my way home. Even though 2 weeks have passed, I am still so disappointed, hurt, and sad. He may have forgiven her, but I just can't. I've tried, but I can't make sense of it. Comment 3. He probably forgave her in bed. She doesn't have the same opportunity with you, so she can't fix it. With you, the harsh truth can't be smothered under a heavy blanket of, there was nothing. Babe, I only love you as. OP, I know. Sucks. I'll just isolate myself from her entirely. Once my daughter's birthday is over, I'll completely stop. Comment 4. How has she not taken responsibility for her actions? I'm not asking in her defense, but rather to better understand the situation. OP, instead of apologizing, she turned it back on him, blaming him for being self-employed rather than having a full-time job, saying she never wanted to get married young and just wanted to enjoy a gig, and even admitting she isn't emotionally attached to him and it's his fault. She also blamed her acts on grieving over her dead sister, saying it's been affecting her and that she needed someone to talk to. Honestly, it's so messed up because who in their right mind thinks sending naughty pics and sexting is a part of grieving? Comment 5. I believe you mean grieving. Grieving means to cause grief, whereas you're talking about mourning her sister. Yeah, NTA. If she wants to be a victim, then give her a reason to feel like a victim. When she complains about it, just tell her that you'll reconsider after she starts taking responsibility for her own behavior. Comment 6. It's okay to be upset and grieve, but I fear this will inevitably hurt your brother and you over time. If he can forgive your Sil, can you forgive and be cordial? OP, honestly, even if I were to forgive her, I know our friendship has changed. I'll never see her the same way again. I did also realize that this might affect my relationship with my brother. But at the end of the day, I have to choose myself and my peace first. Selfish. But what she did was also selfish. Lol. Comment 7. As long as you know that you will probably lose your brother and believe it's worth it, then you're good. It's a terrible thing, and I'm sorry for your loss of a sister. I actually had a similar thing where a close friend cheated, and also blamed everyone but herself for her actions after it ended. It was so gross to me, I ended the friendship a few years later after trying to keep it going. Got a lot of SHT for it, but I don't regret it. It did irreversibly change how I saw her, and I never forgot it. It wasn't even about the cheating at that point, but her lack of accountability. It's very disappointing when someone you love is actually someone else that you never knew. OP, I know. I am very sorry to hear that too. It sucks that some people are so evil selfish. Judgment NTA. Update. Hi everyone. It's been about a month since my last post, and I've received a few messages asking for an update. So here it is. The birthday itself was very awkward, but I kept things civil for the sake of my brother and the guests. I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Everything went fine. After the party, she tried reaching out to me through social media, but I didn't respond. About a week later, I saw my brother again for the first time in a while at a mutual friend's house. His wife came to pick him up. His car was at the mechanic, and I said goodbye to him and ignored her completely. It wasn't out of rudeness. It was simply my decision and a boundary I chose to keep. My husband and best friend told me to cut ties, as this also deeply affected me. A day or so after, my brother called me to tell me she cried the entire way home because I didn't acknowledge her, and that she believed our friendship was ruined forever. That honestly caught me off guard. It felt selfish because she didn't show any sympathy when my brother was breaking things off with her. Yet the moment I stopped acknowledging her, she became an emotional wreck. I feel as if she was more upset about losing me than about what she did to him. Then things escalated. She gave my brother an ultimatum. Cut your sister off to show you respect me. That caused a huge argument between them, to a point where her father got involved. Her father took my brother's side. He told her that she needed to ask for my forgiveness, and that just because my brother forgave her doesn't mean everyone else has to. Then, she planned to come over the same day to apologize and beg for forgiveness, without informing us, just knock on the door and welcome herself in. My brother called to warn me, and I told him very clearly that I didn't want her near my home, and she should have thought about her consequences before she cheated. She kept insisting, but I told her I wouldn't open the door. Eventually, he convinced her to stay away. I spoke to my best friend about this, and she advised me to remove her from my social media since she kept trying to contact me, and it was affecting me. So, I did. That apparently led to another breakdown. She cried for almost 24 hours, which caused yet another argument between her and my brother. I tried calling him to check in, but he didn't answer. Later, he told me she accused him of not respecting her because he was still speaking to me. Ridiculous, if you ask me, because if she truly respected him, she wouldn't have cheated. She throws tantrums whenever he tells her to cut off the bad influence guy friends due to trust issues, yet expects him to cut me off because I set my boundaries with her. Over time, his calls became less frequent. When he does call, it's usually when he's at work, in his car, or somewhere away from home. He can't talk freely because she apparently uses Google Translate when we speak in our mother's tongue, and starts arguments afterwards based on the one word she picked up. Eventually, he stopped calling altogether to avoid the chaos. I don't fully understand why he's still with her, but I'm trying to stay supportive. His mental health has taken a serious hit, as he's emotionally drained, and at this point, my main concern is his well-being. Whatever happens in their relationship, I'll be here for him. He's my brother, and I just want him to be okay. TLDR, my sister-in-law cheated on my brother. I cut her off and refused to speak to her. She's been trying to get my forgiveness, causing drama, and emotionally manipulating my brother. His mental health is declining, but I'm staying supportive while keeping my distance from her. Comments. Comment 1. NTA, it seems that she's more upset and focused on how she's being perceived by other people because she cheated than she is about trying to rebuild the relationship with your brother. And I think you definitely hit the nail on the head that she is more focused on herself and how she feels in this situation than your brother. Her telling your brother to cut you out because you won't acknowledge her again because she did something incredibly SHTTY, and you're showing loyalty to him, shows that she doesn't care about him in the situation. She only cares about herself and her ego. Keep her out. Get some security cameras for your front door. Comment 2. True. She's not sorry. She's just embarrassed. And that's a huge difference. Comment 3. NTA. Your brother needs to grow a pair. Comment 4. Agreed. She sounds like a real piece of work. Comment 5. You know, she cheats and expects everyone to go on like nothing happened. When they don't, she gives the brother an ultimatum to cut family off. I understand there are times to cut family and run, but this wasn't it. Then the pushover starts to obey. When they break up, OP needs to bust his balls over this. Comment 6. No disrespect in NTA for cutting off the pos cheater. But your bro is a complete codependent bonehead, whom she has wrapped around her finger. He's going to learn the hard way again, sadly. OP, I know, and he knows too. I pray that once he leaves, he never looks back again. He deserves so much better. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.